everybody? Happy Friday night, right? I mean, not to sound cliche, but thank God it's Friday. Truly. It's funny because, I'm really hoping that by the time I quit working, we will say, thank God it's Thursday. Because I really think we should, just on a side note, by the way, hey, I'm Spirit 420, because everything I do is so 420. But I really think we should go to the 410s. I would much prefer the bulk of people working on that time frame. Just seems like it would. That and let's keep daylight savings forever. That's about as political as I'm going to get. I do have a little roach. My lovely wife is rolling me one as we speak, so I have one. Here's a comment already. I bet it's Joe. No, it's not. Yo, hey, what's up, man? Claudel Studios. That's pretty cool. Am I reading that right? Skello. How you doing, Claudel Studios? Nice to have you in here, hanging out. I will have a joint here in a minute, and that will be much better because then I can get to smoking like I normally do. I got a few different things to talk about. Most people have been keeping up and they know that I have started a business, and what that business is doesn't matter. The reality is it's keeping me very busy. I love you, brother. I see you, Joe. Good to be here. I almost did that. It's supposed to be that, brother. Oh, Joe, I love so much. Joe and I had a good conversation earlier today, as so many times that we do, and I'm just betting. He was pretty hyped, but I'm betting as much as I needed to talk to him, he needed to talk to me, because that's usually the way it happens. What is this? I didn't realize I was on this act. Nice. And what do we got here from Joe? Oh, I know. You're one of my diehards, brother, and I love you. Management, that's hilarious. Or am I getting wrong? Is it not? Yes, you do like it dirty. Is there any other way to live? I was just talking about our conversation, as a matter of fact, because I on a separate gig on this other business, right? Now I know it. All right. Hello, Tom. Good to see you. That makes me feel like a old. I don't do acronyms as well as I used to. I make them up, but I don't catch them as well as I should when somebody's using one on me. But it is what it is. I will say this. All these alarms, I thought I had snoozed everything. Joe and I were talking about this earlier today, and it's funny. We've talked about it several times, and it's always one of the focal points many times of our conversation, ends up coming around to it at some point. And that is when and by all means, I'm not telling anybody that they need to go out there and live on the dark side. Okay, that's not the point. But I do believe anybody who has been on that side, what I consider to be the dark side, and for my life, karmically speaking, the darker that you go, if you leave that, then I feel like the brighter you shine. Now, it's not because you're better or worse, okay? It has to do with, a lot has to do straight up with your karma, right? If you did a lot of horrible things and you have come to a different way of thinking that, you're meant to help the world and not hinder it, not try to get everything you can from it, but give back to the world as much as you take, and you were on that dark side, naturally, is my experience, that you naturally want to do even more because you know what you did, right? Again, it's not about being better or worse. I don't believe in those terms. I believe we're all equal. I have many times used this phrase to describe what I consider to be people. It's no different than just a massive 8 billion piece puzzle, right? And if you look at any puzzle, what do you know about it? You take any two pieces, and many times they'll look extremely similar, right? Some will be on polar opposites, like two colors, right? And then some will be they're almost identical, but there's always something small that makes each piece individual, right? And when each piece is individual, that you can't, it's no different than our fingerprints, no different than anything else like that of individuality. And what I mean by that is, in order to have that puzzle, each individual piece has to be in the exact right place, right, to see the full picture. And that is the life that we live. We live in this grand scheme, that I literally refer to as a puzzle, because each of us has a part to play. Some may appear larger than others, and some may not. Again, back to the puzzle. If you do a puzzle of a skyline, you have all this blue sky, and then you have pieces that are literally almost identical, but they're not. They're not identical, and it takes all of them to create the picture that you see. That is our life. That's all there is to it. To give you a good example of that, I just had it. To excuse me, to further the example, I should say, when you do something, right, when you fully understand the concept of the puzzle that I'm referring to, when you do something, right, that might be on the opposite end of the puzzle, it's had an effect to the whole picture, right? This is where, quite frankly, the 6 degrees of separation, as well as butterfly, really come into play. I got to turn the air conditioner on. Meant to do this earlier. And it's funny because those go hand in hand. And a lot of people may not fully understand this, but to me, it's because of one that the other is a reality. And let me just expand on that real quick. So for those of you who don't know, you have the butterfly effect, and that's a theory that that's funny. Siri thought I was talking to her for a second. The butterfly effect is essentially that if a butterfly flaps its wings outside of the world, it could cause a tsunami. I think that was the original example that was put forth when the theory was originally created, right? And then 6 degrees of separation is the theory that each human, I think my joint is here. Is it here? Nope. 6 degrees of separation is the theory that each human is only separated by 6 steps. All right. And to understand what I'm talking about here, remember the old Kevin Bacon game that people would play, right? He was in this movie, he was in that movie. So it's essentially like that. Okay, that's exactly what 6 degrees. In fact, that's how the game came about with 5 degrees of Kevin Bacon. So when you take a look at that, if each person is somehow connected to every other person by only 6 steps, if you will, then you really start to understand how your actions, every action that you take, means something. Now, some are definitely smaller than others. And one of the things that I continue to point out to people is that, when you truly believe that everything matters, you still have to have a line of, does it matter so much that I need to fight for it, right? Is it and this goes to that pick your battles, right? Is it a battle? Is it so important that I need to step up and say something about it or do something about it or whatever the case may be? So you have to decide that. And you come to those. That's your moral decisions that you're dealing with. I was really holding my joint would be by now. I keep getting out here. So, anywho, if you believe in 6 degree separation, then you can understand how the butterfly effect takes place. Because somebody can do something on the opposite side of the world, and it can have an effect on somebody else's life and they may not even realize it. That's the funny thing about it. It always has a reaction. Is that what you meant to put? It always has a reaction. Everything, yes, it is a balance that we deal with in the sense of cause and effect. Everything is either a cause or an effect or both, because many times, right, you do something, the effect happens, that effect is yet another cause for something else, and then that's when you have those domino type situations, right? Let's see. I'm gonna just send a text to her because I feel like it would normally be here by now, but I think something has happened, and there has been because I actually had it half packed when I came up here to start the show. Either way, when you come to terms, or if I should say if, I don't want to say when. What did you say over here? Damn bang. Yeah, bong always gets in the way. Funny enough, on a side note about the bong, we love Legos in this family, and we looked up and found literally a Lego bong. I thought that was just hilarious. I don't know if it's actually, I'm sure it's a joke because I doubt Lego's actually done it, but somebody did build it, and it was pretty impressive. The only thing I was trying to say is if you come to the conclusion that 6 degrees of separation is a reality, and then therefore the butterfly effect, that theory becomes very realistic, right? You saw that too? Did you see that, Bong? Yeah, it's hysterical. I love it. I'm hoping to say this right, because most of us think before we do, but many times we just go. Our reactions are almost programmed. If you come to the place that everything you do matters. Thank you so much. That was Mrs. Spirit. What a wonderful woman. Again, because I didn't forget it, I'm just trying to get the full thought out. If you believe in 6 degrees of separation, most likely you will buy the theory of butterfly effect. And the whole point is, when you do that, I believe that we end up giving a little more thought to what we do and what we say to other people, right? Especially strangers. If you understand this, and I'll give you a real quick example, but let's say that you're out and about, and this is one of my biggest weak spots, as you all know. I have a real hard time with road rage. So using that as an example, we'll do a positive and a negative, right? You start off your day, and let's say that you've had okay day far, right? It's not been one of the greatest, but it's definitely not been one of the worst. And you get in your car, and let's say maybe it's lunch break, so you get in your car to go get some lunch, right? And somebody does the inevitable and cuts you off, and then they do what I really can't stand, and I'm sure a lot of you will agree, but they do something wrong and then get mad at you for honking your horn. It's the most amazing thing I've ever seen, and it didn't used to happen in the 70s. Like, if somebody did something wrong and you honked a horn, the guy honking or the girl honking, whatever, was just letting you know, and B, the other person was like, hey, no problem, or I'm sorry, my bad. But now it's fuck you, don't honk at me, even if I'm an idiot. I find that to be utterly absurd when somebody gets mad at me for their wrongdoing, right? And it happens all the time. And here's my point. Let's say that I allow that, and this is true. Okay, I am making a point. Let's say I allow that bad interaction to really fucking ruin my day, right? And I get really hurt which means I get really pissed and really angry. And then I go home to my family and I end up taking that aggression and anger out on one, if not all of them, because they have gotten to me, or they are now talking to me at the wrong time, right? And I don't even know the person who cut me off, and they don't give a shit about my day. They're not in the car going, "Oh yeah, I fucked his day up." So there might be some, I'm not saying it never happens, but most people are not doing that. They are incredibly angry themselves. And most of the time, when they do that reaction that I talked about, when they get angry at you for them doing something wrong, that's usually a good sign that this is probably a person that loves themselves. Okay. And I can't stress that enough, because if they did, when you honk, like I've been honked at, I make mistakes, and I just give them a peace sign, like, "Hey man, I apologize, my bad," because it was my bad. And I love myself. I'm not saying I love myself where I need to be. There's grades of it, and I'm still just over that 50%, maybe around 65. But two things: I still can love myself more, but I love myself enough to where half of the time that happens, I don't let it ruin my day. And the other half of the time, I don't let it necessarily ruin my whole day, but it definitely ruins the rest of the trip, right? The rest of that drive, or whatever the case may be. And here's a real funny one, just to take it further. Let's say I do go out to ruin my trip, and then I end up making a mistake. And somebody honks at me, and I'm still so angry that I end up yelling at them. I become the very same thing. I become the very same thing that I was angry about. And it's not anybody's particular fault. The responsibility totally lies on me, if anything. If it's anybody's fault, it's mine. Right? If I'm not the problem, there is no solution. So with negative, right, just looking at the negative side, you can see how your interaction could end up ruining multiple days, right? And I'll just real quick, I'll spin on it. What if that trip, because this has happened to me, what if that trip I'm talking about is me taking my wife to work, and because of it, we get into an argument, right? Then she goes to work angry, and I go home angry. When we see next, it's probably not going to be the greatest thing. So, I mean, you can really see where I'm going with this, right? It can be a real domino effect and can ruin many people's lives that day. I still believe they allow it, right? If they allow it to ruin them, then that's on them. But if you're putting out that action, then most likely somebody is going to, I love you, brother. If you're putting out that action, then most likely someone's going to be hurt by it and allow it to hurt their definitely their moment, possibly a few hours, maybe even the day. Now, on the flip side, let's say you do something, just a small thing, and you let somebody, and it's traffic, and nobody's letting this person in. They're all going by, and you stop and let get into dead stop traffic, right? Maybe it's the morning, right? Let's take that example since we're doing another chain effect. Oh, did you say something else, brother? What was that? Oh, man, I love you. You stay lifted too, brother. So let's say you do that, right? The same effect happened on the other end of the spectrum. They are now in a better mood. Somebody helped them out. They may in turn do something kind for someone else. It may not be traffic related. Maybe they go to work and they're in a better mood. So then they do something for a coworker, right? Maybe they end up maybe they work with people, like they're in retail or sales, and they go to work and they're in a good mood. And then with a complete stranger, they end up having a wonderful phone call or a wonderful experience. because of that they're in a good mood and they actually put that other person in a good mood, and then so on and so forth, right? It works both ways. If you put out positive energy, we are magnetic by nature, and that energy just keeps bouncing. Energy does not end, it always takes a different form. So the energy keeps bouncing. If you put out a horrible attitude and that, what goes along with that, then that's exactly what you end up spreading. Period. It's give or take, it always is. We are always doing we're always doing this. It's whether or not we are doing this with the knowledge of what we're doing, and then also in that knowledge trying to spread as much happiness and joy to our fellow man as possible, because the more you spread, the more that energy spreads, and people from all over, might be having a better day, all because of the fact, hey babe, good to see you, all because of the fact that you, and I'm serious, it could be the smallest act of kindness that day had, and it spread like wildfire because you were kind. The same wildfire, though, can spread, you're a jerk. And it does. I shouldn't say it can't, because here's the reality. Those examples that I just gave, they absolutely happen. They happen all the time. If you understand that, and piece of hair in my face, if you understand that and you see it, because how I felt, how I figured it out. Like, not only did I hear these theories growing up, starting well in my teens, but as I have gotten older, I have literally what I like to call experiments and tests to see if these theories hold true, right? And they do. I wish I had the ability. What would be really awesome is the ability to have like a camera, just like a video game, that would follow whoever you touch next, right? So let's say you were really nice and this person feels better because of it. The camera goes follow them, and then you see what happens. And maybe you're nice to them and they're not nice to three people. So you're getting three cameras, because it branches out just like a tree of life, tree of love. It also can be the tree of hate. Don't think for a minute that it can't go both ways. And in fact, it does. But if you are ultimately putting out joy, support, happiness, and love, then that is what you're spreading in your immediate area, and you have no idea how far that may spread from you, especially if you're consistent. And what I mean is, look at anybody who has any kind of popularity for positive vibes. It didn't start all of a sudden in a boom. It was being kind and being nice to each person, making connections, staying consistent, and then all of a sudden they are touching hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands, all the way to the point where you are literally touching millions, or possibly even a billion. It is not unheard of at all in this day and age to have that kind of effect. And here's the thing, it all starts with one simple act of kindness after the other. Just one piece of kindness, one after the other. If you want, call it pay it forward, if that makes you feel good. You know what I mean? The whole concept of pay it forward was that reality. I help one person, they in turn help three. It becomes a branch, and it just becomes this I guess, for lack of a better word, mechanism of kindness, right? And I want to point something out. I really love that movie, because whoever wrote it, I think, has the same concepts of life as I do. All of that came from death and loss, right? I'm not going to ruin it for you, but just go and watch. If you haven't seen Pay It Forward, go and watch it. It'll make you cry, but I don't believe you'll cry because it's so sad. You'll cry. There'll be some sadness that you cry from, but guaranteed you're going to cry because it's inspirational. It truly is. I don't care what anybody says, movies can change the world, and that did. You do have a lot of people that spend their life paying it forward. And when they do it, they tell somebody, like, hey, doing this, but do me a favor and you pay it forward, right? There's people, I think this is awesome. There are people that have paid it forward and they never saw the film. I think that's pretty cool. That shows you the kind of effect that just an idea can have. And it really starts, if we go back to act of kindness, it truly starts with the idea first. And in fact, it really starts with having thought, having an idea, speaking your truth, and then acting on it. It's really quite simple when you think about it. Please do not confuse the word simple with easy. I never, ever claim that this is easy. In fact, walking, whatever you want to call it, if you want to call it the high road, whatever, if you're trying to be inspirational and you're trying to be motivational and you're trying to help, you also get a lot of haters. It's, in fact, I try to tell people this, and you should look at it this way. If you are spreading inspiration and joy, you're going to have more darkness react to you, try to ruin your day. It is part of the balance. If you love yourself enough, you will handle it. And either way, even if you don't love yourself enough, when you are doing this, because many times in the early days, it takes a lot. It takes consistency to see it coming back to you in a karmic way. And you don't do it for that, right? It just makes it easier. But at the same time, there's going to be more acts of anger and hate towards you because it is a balance. And when that happens, truly look at it for what it is. It means you're doing the right thing. Once you get the understanding of this balance, then the signs are there for you to see, hey, look at all the shit that's happening, right? Look at all the shit that's happening. And then realize that A, it all happens for a specific reason. And B, and even more importantly, whatever's happening now, there will be an opposite of it. So let it go. If it's anger and hate, let that go. If you're in a moment of joy, then enjoy it, because it will not last forever. And there will be a counterbalance. But when you're in the counterbalance, feel the pain and move on. Let it go. Let go and let the universe have it. Or let go and let God. Whatever is good for you. Me personally, I have a higher power. So I do not waver from that. I've told people that for me, I have removed the the question mark, and replace it with a check mark of God. I do not question that whatsoever anymore. And, if you ask a bunch of people this question, you'll be surprised. I have only found a small percentage, like with all due respect to these people, probably 1% or maybe a little bit less of people, if you have a deep conversation, regardless of their station in church, because I've had this conversation with preachers, ministers, deacons, all kinds of, what is it, when a mosque, I can't remember that name, that the holy person, it's always the same. When you get down, and when I say it's always the same, 99% of the time, they will say, yes, I still question it. It's like, and it's not that they sit around questioning it. Okay. That's not what I'm saying. Most of these folks are diehard and have great faith, and they rarely waver. But what ends up happening is when something bad does happen, it causes you to take a step back. And sometimes you may question what you believe in. What I'm referring to is, and I would not have gotten through the loss of my son if this was not absolutely true. From the moment that it happened, I knew I was feeling the pain, folks. And don't think, I screamed when I got the news, but I kept a consistent thought in my head that this was not the end of him, and this was not the what's the word I'm looking for? I guess the final time that I would see my son, I knew that. I knew it right out of the gate. Does that make it easier? Just a little bit. If you truly have removed that question mark, it makes it a little bit easier, but you're still going to have pain. I miss my son. I miss him every day. I go through a point of every day, wishing, not wishing he was here, but wishing I could tell him I love him and things like that, right? Which I know some people are going to say, hey, wishing that you could tell him you love him is the same thing. No, I don't necessarily want him back. He's where he needs to be. I just wish that at least one more time I could tell him how much I love him. But the fact is, I have a great memory, and this is where I'll end it. The day before he was killed, I talked to him at 11 a.m. The day before. That was a Friday, the 21st. And the last thing my son said to me in reference to my life was how proud he was of me in what I was doing in regards to Spirit of 420, this right here, what I was doing in regards to business and those type of things, and just how I had handled a big hiccup, because October 21st was not even wasn't even 3 weeks from me getting fired from a job that I was going to have, I thought I was going to have until I retired, right? So it was a bit devastating, and he was proud of me because, quick nutshell, I went out there and secured, and you can go back and watch the channel for this stuff, but I went out there and I secured funding for the project that I was going to do. Now, Saf, and you'll love this, it wasn't me thinking I couldn't do it, but my investors lost faith in me, because that day, 21st, Friday, that was the day that they agreed to invest. We had not signed anything. We had a discussion that morning. Well, one of them stopped answering, and the other one, basically that he had to spend the money somewhere else. But I knew what happened, and it's okay, because everything happens for a reason. And we took the money from Sky's Life Insurance, and we started a new company, and we are very happy where we're at. I hope all of y'all are very happy where you're at. And what I will end it with is, please know that I told you my belief. I know that God exists. I know that each one of us are important. Each one of us are special. And each one of us are a puzzle piece in the grand picture of life. We are. And you play as much role as someone with $1 billion or someone with no money and living on the street. You play as much role as the beacon church, the preacher of a church, or, quite frankly, the preacher of maybe a satanic cult. I'm not saying you are, but my point is, we all have our purpose, and we all have that very unique, special glow inside of each one of us. Allows us to think, allows us to have our own individuality. That is not something to be taken lightly for, or don't take lightly of that fact. It is extremely important. The more you realize that, the more you will truly start to love yourself, and you will have a much simpler time dealing with life. It's not easy. It's never easy. But once it becomes simple, the logic of it is very straightforward. I do this, I do this, I do this, right? So I love each and every one of you. Today is Friday, the 27th. So I'll be back. Is that 27th? There's 31 days in October, right? I'm not crazy. I believe there is. Hold on. It's just sad, because that's how much of a stoner I am. Yes. So 31st. Oh, next week is going to be one of those. No, it's not. I'll still only be on 3 times. Or will I? Yeah, I'll still only be 3 times. But I'll be back-to-back days, because you have Tuesday the 31st, Wednesday the 1st. I'll be on both of those days. And then I'll be back on again next Friday the 3rd. So everybody have a wonderful weekend. Have a blessed weekend. Have a lifted weekend. I hope that each and every one of you, if you don't already love yourself, start to learn that you are worth it. Start to learn that everybody's worth it. You have your part to play. That means you're important, and you should love yourself for that very reason. If no other reason, love yourself for the fact that you are alive. I know it sounds crazy, but either way, what do we got here? Hey, thank you so much, Brandy. I love you, sweetheart. And what do we got here? Hey, thanks a lot, man. I appreciate it. Thanks for showing up. Thanks for being a part of it. And all I can say is I hope that I hope you folks come back. One of the things, in fact, Brandy knows I'm going to try to get her on the show because I think she has a very, very inspirational, beautiful story to share. So that is something I'm trying to set up for the future. Other than that, it's the same old, same old. I love all of y'all. I love me. Each one of you are awesome. Each one of you purpose. The more you start to realize that, the more it will come clear to you what your purpose is. I swear to you, not everybody's supposed to be a preacher. Not everybody's supposed to be a rich person. That's just, in fact, in my belief, I think the poorest man in the world has all the gold. Period. Whoever has all that money, they're usually a very poor soul when it comes to what actually means anything. There's no money in the afterlife. And if there is, you got to make it there too. So I love all of y'all. Have a wonderful, beautiful weekend. Hope you get to spend it with loved ones and ones that matter, friends, family, all that good stuff. I will be doing the same thing. All I can tell you is if you ever need anything, all you have to do is ask. I will help you in the best possible way that I am able. Always. Love each and every one of y'all. Have a great Friday night.
I switch here, I'm a strange fuck. Consist on ain't something I could say well. Throw my change into the wishing for a change well. Wish a day a swell life for the next come. And when the next come, pretend that it's the best one. Like I ain't even gonna try and say that to the next one.